Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on what side of the globe you're on. My name is Alan Christoph, and I'm an outbound product manager within the Cloud AI and Industry Solutions organization, focusing on product discovery. For you, our end customers, that simply translates to transforming your product discovery experience with AI. I will be hosting today's session with the support of my panelists and AI experts, Pallav Mehta and Noah Freeman. A little bit about our panelists before we jump into it. Pallav Mehta is a product manager and lead for discovery who's been with Google for 2 years. Prior to Google, Pallav was a venture capital investor, a VP at a venture capital firm and a venture capital investor, and held product roles at AWS. Noah Freeman is a product manager and lead for discovery who's been with Google for 1 year. Prior to Google, Noah was the CTO and head of product in multiple startups, and he successfully exited his own startup. That said, while hosting, I'll go over some frequently asked questions that our panelists will answer. During our discussion, I ask that if you have any questions, please upload to our Q&A, and we will get to the ones that we can given the allotted time. Before jumping into our topics of discussion, I would like to help everyone and ground the conversation by helping everyone understand the difference between traditional search and AI discovery, primarily in the response to two frequently asked questions. The first question is, how are retailers improving the customer experience with Google Cloud's discovery solutions? And how are AI solutions changing the way consumers find and discover products? So for the first question, traditional search and recommendation technologies often make it difficult for retailers to provide a consistent and accurate messaging across various channels and methods of search. We've estimated that search abandonment and a bad personalization experience could cost retailers up to $300 billion per year. Customers expect personalized recommendations and search results based on behavior, and we've identified 4 key areas. Retailers find it difficult to truly understand user intent. It can be difficult to optimize and allow for multiple query methods. Retailers struggle with surfacing the right product and content to shoppers. And lastly, there's difficulty connecting catalog and user events data, including cold start users, i.e. new users. Legacy technologies and process prevent the ability to balance personalization, flexibility, and to scale effectively. The second question is really around how are AI solutions changing the way consumers find and discover products? It's in 2 areas: deep expertise in understanding the user intent and personalization and AI innovation. In the first area, with regards to understanding user intent, retailers benefit from Google's deep experience in product discovery and understanding user intent, using our flagship products in Google Ads, Google Search, and YouTube. For the second piece, personalization and AI innovation, Google's innovation in advanced machine learning and artificial intelligence capabilities help to provide fast, high-quality search results and recommendations that improve conversion and increase customer engagement. This includes deep learning hardware, cloud TPU, first transfer learning services, streaming and batch data without code changes, TensorFlow, and model performance benchmarks like translation, speech, and mobile models. Of course, I'll leave it to the AI experts to dig deeper. Now let's get started and have a discussion with our expert panelists. Providing quality product discovery experiences to consumers on digital platforms is a challenge for retailers and all customers today. Retailers improve customer experience and engagement while improving conversion and basket size by leveraging Google Cloud discovery solutions. With that said, my first question is directed at Noah. Noah, can you start by sharing a little bit about the importance of product discovery and why Google Cloud is making the investments to deliver products that help make discovery easier and better? Noah, you're on mute. There we go.
Thanks, Alan. First, let's talk about what product discovery is. So product discovery is getting the right products in front of the right person at the right time. And what's confusing is product discovery is a problem, but it doesn't have one solution. It has multiple solutions, right? Because customers can tell you what they're looking for in different ways. They can be searching for your item where they put in a search query and that tells you what they want, or maybe depending on what they type. They can also browse to your products, meaning they go to women's, and then they go to /dresses, /formal dresses. Or they can get recommendations by adding a dress to their cart and seeing other dresses that they might also like. So all of these together are this problem of product discovery, but they don't have one solution. They have different solutions that are used in different parts of a retailer's stack. But I think one of the things that people have never understood until recently is that the difference between adequate product discovery and fantastic product discovery isn't just user experience, it's also a lot of money. So let's talk about sort of why this is important. I think first off, we can all say from our personal experience, when you go to a website, you're super excited to buy gravel. You go to gravel.com and you just cannot find gray gravel. You can find the black gravel, you can find the white gravel, but you can't find the gray gravel. Or if you can find the gray gravel, you can only find it in the dump truck load and you want a bag. And we all know that very, very quickly, if you don't have a good product discovery experience, you're not going to stay on gravel.com. You're going to go buy it at landfill.com or something else. So, and this also shows up in the industry data. Like 85% of users say that they will look less favorably on a brand if they've had a bad search experience. So we know it in our personal life, we know it in the industry data. I think one thing we didn't realize is how much it matters for revenue. That the difference between adequate product discovery and great product discovery is a lot of dollars and a lot of pockets. So let's talk about, when we started building these products a few years back, I think a lot of us thought that these were going to be worth 1%, 2%, 3% in terms of how much revenue per visitor increase you might see. And I can tell you on the search side, when we compare AI, when we do an A/B test with the exact same website and the exact same product catalog with the exact same randomized customers, if you use great AI-driven search, we have seen A/B tests where that just the AI-driven search was increased revenue per visitor by 20%. So I'm going to say that again because that's a big number. Yeah, there are situations where good AI-driven search and good AI-driven product discovery can drive revenue per visitor without changes in catalog, without changes in advertising, without changes in site design by 20%, which is a tremendous amount for a single product to plug in and not require any UX. And those tests we've seen recently with the high-end AIs, we did not expect numbers that big. So I think overall, the answer to the question of why are we investing so much in AI-driven product discovery is that, well, retailers aren't investing that much in it right now. They should be, because we're investing in the areas where that's where the money is. And to be able to increase revenue per visit by 20% with some tools means it's an area that's a huge focus for us. So that's why we're investing in it, because it's a huge lever on our clients' profitability.
Excellent. Thank you, Noah. And Pallav, can you share a customer example where they are driving great business results with discovery solutions?
Sure, Alan. Before I get to that, I want to sort of set some context, right? I think we can all agree that the last couple of years, wild acceleration in digital commerce has exceeded all of our expectations. Most shoppers now think digital first, which means retailers that were not born in the cloud are mostly trying to still figure out how to work in this new paradigm, right? How to work in this digital first paradigm. And to speak of a couple of customers that are using our solutions, Sephora and IKEA, which are very well renowned for their absolutely beautiful in-store experiences, great personal help, support, curated, kind of living rooms in IKEA, as we've all experienced, have spent a lot on sprucing up their e-commerce experience. For instance, they've been using recommendations AI to deliver delightful personalization to customers and improve their business metrics like conversion rates and average order value. In fact, IKEA about a few months ago was talking about how using recommendations AI, they increased the average order value of their global e-commerce business by 2%, which is a non-trivial number for a business of that scale. Similarly, Lowe's has talked about how they've had amazing results with search, particularly with long-tail searches. And it's no wonder, because Google is absolutely world-class at figuring out how to answer long-tail searches. And Google talked about this a few years ago. 15% of the searches that happen on Google are unique and have never happened before. So, on the other side of Google, it's really their core business to understand customer intent when you haven't seen that kind of customer intent before. We've had some customers tell us that they saw a double-digit percentage increase in revenue from deploying our discovery solutions. I think the transition from what they had before versus what they have now has almost been like someone walking around the neighborhood with the yellow pages in their hand, trying to find where the laundry, store is. And, you kind of walked up to them and said, here's a smartphone. It's got Google Maps loaded on it. Type in laundry here, and it'll pinpoint the exact location. That is the precision with which our solutions are able to understand customer intent and bring the relevant solution in front of them. And intuitively, this is not a surprise, right? It makes sense that the level of business impact that our discovery solutions have had on customers is so high. Like, we did a little bit of research on this, and it turned out 94% of global consumers had seen search results on retail websites in the last 6 months that were not relevant to what they were searching for. At least that's what they felt.
Excellent.
They've had to rephrase their search. They've had to change, different filters, try to basically become experts at typing the right search query to get the results they want. They had to browse through a bunch of different experiences to get the results they want. And that poor discovery experience sticks in their mind of shoppers, right? And it drives loyalty down over time. 85% of consumers said that they saw a brand differently after they had an unsuccessful search experience. So you can see how great product discovery isn't just about stopping a single bad interaction, but it's about stopping the steady bleeding. And that's why some of our customers are seeing such good results using our discovery solutions.
Excellent. Thank you, Pallav. Thank you, Noah. 20% growth is something to look forward to. One major trend in the commerce world that everyone will agree on is that consumers' expectations keep increasing, and artificial intelligence solutions are changing the way consumers find and discover new products. With that said, I'd like to hear from each of you, Pallav and Noah, about how Google's cloud discovery solutions are leveraging AI to deliver best-in-class solutions today. Pallav, why don't you start with this one?
Yeah. Okay, we can all relate to this, how our shopping journey is very nonlinear. Like, at any given time, we're out in the market shopping for multiple different products, right? And that's why it's so hard to understand a shopper's intent, decipher the different queries that they're throwing at a system, right? At a search system, or use the breadcrumbs of data that they're leaving behind to predict what they'll engage with next and bring that up as a recommendation to them. Doing this at scale particularly requires state-of-the-art ML. I think, as Noah was talking about earlier, right? Basic recommendations that search engines just don't cut it. We need to, or our retailers need to deploy systems that can glean insights from very messy data and vague queries and personalize with every click in real time. And these are the kinds of things that we've incorporated into our products. For instance, Recommendations AI spent years iterating on models and infrastructure. We started with some very basic models, and then we took inspiration from some of the really cool models that YouTube had deployed to try to improve our models to the state of the art. And we've gotten there at this point, but we didn't just stop at that, right? We also had to build the infrastructure that could serve recommendations in low latency and in real time adapt to every click that a user is making. And that same technology is also now used in our search products. We recognize that real world retailers don't just want great recommendation results and like low latency. They have different business goals they're trying to solve at different parts, right? So we kind of expanded from there to build different model types that solve for different use cases. For instance, a recommendations model that serves good results on the homepage is very different from a recommendations model that serves good results on the cart page. And then for each of these models, we gave our customers different optimization goals and the ability to set up business rules that make it very easy for a merchandiser to come in and set up the kind of system that they want good results from. So that just gives you a sense of the kind of things that we've built that have made it possible for us to deliver on that promise of understanding customer intent.
Thank you, Pallav. All right, Noah, this one's for you. Why is understanding user intent so important, and how can retailers use semantic understanding to decipher intent with the use of AI and machine learning?
Yeah, so this is actually an area we've spent a lot of time working on. And here's the key, is if you present customers with what they want, they're going to buy a lot more. The problem is customers are really bad at telling us what they want. Partly it's because they don't know what they want, and partly it's because even if they do know what they want, it's really hard for them to tell us in a way that makes much sense. So let's talk about sort of how important the language processing is to doing really good search. And let's talk about, in our world, we think about there's two kinds of search. There's tail search and head search. Tail search tends to be very rare searches that are very specific. Right? Tail search also tends to be easy. So here's an example. Someone goes to a clothing website and types Nike Air Max Pegasus, size 9 men's, green. Right? That is a tail search. That exact query is very rare. And it only has one or two products. It's also really easy, right? It is almost any search engine can take in that search, can go and find the one product in the catalog that matches that search. So that's an example of tail search where you don't actually need to know a whole lot of English, know a lot of AI to do it, because there's really only one product that fits all those criteria. But now let's talk about head search. And head search is the opposite. Head search queries are very common, very vague, and have lots and lots of potential answers. So the nightmare head search for a clothing retailer is date night dress. So let's talk about why that's hard. First off, there's a whole lot of things that might be date night dresses. There are 20,000 dress SKUs in many big retail catalogs. And here's the real problem with this phrase is actually the date night part. And let's talk about that. So let's now divide search into sort of Gen 1 non-AI based search and Gen 2 AI based search. Gen 1 non-AI based search fundamentally does search by counting words. So what it'll do when presented with red dress is it will go and look in the catalog and will say, wow, this item has the word red a lot. It has the word dress a lot. And look, the word red and dress are next to each other and they're in the right order a lot. This is almost certainly a red dress. And that works okay if someone searches for red dress. It works quite badly if someone searches for date night dress. Because think it through, in the catalog, no one lists the dress as date night dress. They list their dress as red, above the knee, fitted, designer with a price. Nowhere does it say date night dress. If you do word count, you're not going to find date night dresses because no one describes a dress that way. In fact, the worst case outcome might be you might find a dress with pictures of date palms on it, which is not a date night dress, but has dates on it, or a dress with calendars on it. Like, those are terrible date night dresses. So what you need to do is understand what a date night dress is, not by word count, but by true understanding of language. And so the way we do that is we actually use giant building scale AIs, and we use the Google shopping data. So for 10 years, people have gone to Google shopping and they've typed date night dress. And they've clicked on things and they haven't clicked on other things. And what that lets our AIs do is realize over time, what are the attributes of date night dresses? And they learn that, wow, date night dresses are often red. They're often fitted. They might be short, right? They're almost never baggy. And they never have the word wedding in them or bride in them, because those aren't date night dresses. Those are wedding dresses, which is a different thing. So our AI can look at the entire history of what people have searched for in Google Shopping and what they've clicked on, and it can build a model in 128 dimensions of what a date night dress is in some profound way. And at the end of the day, this is actually what speaking English is. When we know what a date night dress is, we know it's short, we know it's fitted. That's what the AI is doing too. And what we've seen is that if you have great semantic understanding, you can show the right products. And if you show the right products, you have tremendous differences in revenue on these searches. So we've talked about, single digit to low double digit increases in revenue per visit on average with good AI search. But when you look at just head queries, you can see even bigger changes, right? So things like date night dress. Another one that you see a lot of that most search engines struggle with is chocolate milk versus milk chocolate. We all know that those are two very different products, but they're both these same words. So again, things like that, having an AI that actually understands language as compared to just counting words makes a tremendous difference to the outcome for your customers and to the e-com websites.
Excellent. Thank you, Noah. Noah, your level of understanding in date night dresses is second to none I've seen. And to Pallav, we've talked a lot about personalization, intuitive search functionalities, and user interaction, and ranking models for retailers to meet specific business goals. Can you tell us about Google's state-of-the-art AI and how it provides personalized product results?
Yeah. I can't get the image of Noah buying someone a dress with date palms on it. It just sounds like the perfect Noah moment. Well, going back to your question, Alan. So Google has always been an ML first company, right? And that is almost encoded in our mission. And we say that our job is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. All of that is about data and making organizing data, making predictions on data, et cetera, right? And we've always been pushing the boundary of what's possible in core ML fields like vision, natural language understanding, forecasting, et cetera. But even from an infrastructure standpoint, we're constantly trying to improve and make those improvements available to our customers. For instance, through the Vertex AI platform or through applied AI solutions like retail search and recommendations, which is what we're talking about today. So on the discovery team, we feel like we're very lucky to be able to leverage the groundbreaking work done by our colleagues all around Google in our solutions. Just to sort of share some examples, we're using things such as learn to rank models that improve results with every data point that we capture. We're using core relevance and semantic query understanding from the rest of Google. We're using product understanding from structured and unstructured content, basically building upon a lot of the underlying tech that's already been built to serve Google search results for the last couple of decades. And we're still building, right? This is sort of not, we haven't reached an endpoint of what kinds of technologies we want to deploy. We have lots of new features launching soon that will use more and more new technologies. We have new modes of discovery coming soon. We have new model types, new optimization goals for each model types, a bunch of merchandiser-friendly features. We have new channels through which we're going to deliver personalization. So exciting times are going to continue to come.
All right. Thanks, Pallav, and thank you, Noah, for the detailed responses there. All right. For our final question, before we transition into the QA portion of this conversation, and the general Q&A portion, that is, what are some of the recent advancements in AI technology, and what has been Google's role in contributing to these advancements? Pallav, since you just ended, why don't we start with you again?
Sure. Before I get to your answer, just reminder to our audience: if you have any questions, please send them in. We'd be excited to and looking forward to answering them after the next couple of minutes. So going back to your question, Alan, there was this really cool paper published by the Google Brain team in 2017 called "Attention is All You Need." And it introduced a concept called attention-based transformers. This is a new modeling approach that literally transformed, pun intended, deep learning and natural language processing. And it's behind some of the cool things that you're hearing about now, like GPT-3 or BERT. And if you haven't played with GPT-3, you really should. It is absolutely fantastic. It's a lot of fun to play with. I don't want to bore you too much about transformers, so I'll keep it brief. But one of the major problems in the world of machine learning before transformers was that models used to comprehend and predict models that were trying to predict sequences, basically like take a sequence of inputs and predict what's going to happen next, were notoriously difficult to train. Or models that were trying to understand a sequence were notoriously difficult to manage. Sequences could, just to give you a sense of like what are sequences, it could be a string of words, right? Like the example Noah shared a moment ago, chocolate milk versus milk chocolate. The order in which you place them changes what they mean, and that's true for language or sentences in any language, right? Or a set of user actions, for instance, clicks and purchases, is also a sequence. So transformers brought this clever change to machine learning architectures that essentially allowed for very efficient parallelization. And the result was that we could train much, much larger models in a very reliable way. Attention-based transformers is just one of the ways in which we are improving ML in our products, right? And specifically like attention-based transformers, it's as if like they've given us the superpower to finish our spouse's sentences. Except instead of finishing our spouse's sentences, we're finishing our shoppers' shopping journeys by bringing the right product in front of them. That's kind of, in my sort of words at least, the sort of pithiest summary of what transformers are helping us do. Another very powerful machine learning tech that Google has iteratively improved to accelerate machine learning is tensor processing units, or TPUs. They're essentially specialized chips that are faster and more power efficient than GPUs for specific ML workloads. And examples of those workloads are ranking problems, such as that are used in recommendations and search. These chips already power Google products such as Translate, Photos, and Assistant, and of course, Search. And with every successive generation of TPUs, we've seen practically an order of magnitude improvement in model training speeds. And the ultimate consequence of this is, again, they're allowing us to train larger and larger models. So we're currently in the process of transitioning our solutions to TPUs, but I'm super excited about how much more of a performance improvement we're going to see in search and recommendations from our products once that migration is completed. But I'll pause there. I think I'd love to hear from Noah as well on what your sense is on some of the cool tech we are using and will be using soon.
Great. I mean, there's a lot here. I mean, this is one of the reasons I came to Google, was to work on these sort of high-end AIs and their business applications. But let me talk about a couple things that are coming out of the research world that we're doing that I think are really exciting. One of them is being able to predict rare events. And this is, oddly enough, a real problem for big AIs. So first, let's talk about why we care. Ultimately, when we do a search, when someone searches for date night dress, we don't just want to show them the datiest date night dress. We want to show them the one they're going to buy, which means we need to predict the likelihood of purchase. So we need to say, wow, if we show this dress, the likelihood of purchase is 1.5%. And if we show that dress, the likelihood of purchase is 0.3%. So let's show the 1.5% one higher. But here's the problem. Purchases, when looked at from the point of view of search, are really rare. 99.5% of searches don't lead to a purchase. So if you can't predict a rare event, you can't predict the likelihood of purchase from a search, and then you can't rank the products properly. Now let's talk about why rare events were historically really hard to predict, which is AIs historically were great at predicting events that were 50% likely to happen and 50% likely to not happen. But here's the challenge. If you give an AI data where 99.5% of the time the answer is no, and 0.5% of the time the answer is yes, and ask it to predict what will happen, the AI will say, wow, if I always say no, I'll be right 99.5% of the time, which is really good. So when presented with rare events, historically, AIs just said rare events never happen, which makes them not useful for predicting a rare event, which is what we need to do to rank search results properly. So one of the big things that we've been working on that has come out of the Google research community is model types that use not just purchases, but intermediate funnel values. So for example, clicks off of search are pretty common. They don't count like purchases, but they're helpful. And add to carts are medium common. They're better than that. So what we can do with these new techniques is we can use very little data, but a lot of it from up funnel. So we say, wow, we don't have a lot of data on this search, but we have a fair amount of clicks, almost no purchases, but we can still predict purchases, even though they're very rare, using a lot of intermediate data. And these are techniques that came out of the research community that we're applying to let us predict how purchase likelihood, which then lets us rank better. Another area that's really interesting is better language AIs. So one thing that I think is really interesting is, for example, how do adjectives work? So let's take colors and how they work in a search. If someone searches for blue blouse, what they mean is I want a product called a blouse, and I want you to filter on color equals blue. So the proper thing to do with the blue blouse search term is return only blue blouses, because blue in that context is a filter word. It's not optional. They want blue blouses. But on the other hand, blue jeans doesn't mean the same thing. When someone types blue jeans, they might actually be looking for white blue jeans or red blue jeans. So in this context, even though the same word is being used, blue, always in clothing, in one context, it's a filter word. In another context, it's not, because you can have red blue jeans, but you cannot have a red blue blouse. So that's really complicated, because you can't just say blue is a filter word or blue isn't a filter word. What you have to do is say, wow, in certain contexts, blue is a filter word. In other contexts, it's not. And so that is actually a big, large natural language processing AI problem that we have been working on that makes a big difference. You guys see me?
Yep, you're cutting a little bit in and out there, Noah.
I don't know what just happened.
You're cutting in and out, Noah. I'll,
Yeah, I
I'll
am.
jump. I'll jump to our Q&A now, if that's okay. So, Pallav and Noah, thank you for the detailed insights on what makes Google AI different and what makes AI different in general, but how Google is more or less taking it to the next level. Going to our Q&A, our first question comes from Chris. Chris asks, can we talk about some customers who are currently using these solutions and what sort of results they are seeing? Pallav, let's start with you as Noah works through his communication issues.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have him back in just a minute or two. Thanks, Chris. So one of the really cool things I've seen over the last couple of years is the incrementally, every 6 months, a customer continues to use our products. They continue to see more and more and more improvements. So this is sort of this ongoing steady improvement, because as we improve our algorithms, as we improve our customer intent understanding, customers see those benefits. But to give you a few anecdotes, I talked about earlier, IKEA, rolled this out globally, saw a 2% increase in average order value for their global e-commerce business, or Sephora, or Digitech, or Hanes, just a smattering of customers who've been using these products. We've also had Lowe's and Macy's. Actually, Noah, if you're back, I'd love to hear from you about some of the performance improvements that Lowe's and Macy's have seen using our products.
Yeah. So, we were we've been proud to be partnered with Macy's and Lowe's. Macy's was the first co-development partner on this product. So it's been a long partnership. Lowe's has also been a really valuable partner here. And we've seen really big advances. In fact, a lot of what we're talking about in terms of these head queries came from our work with Macy's, where there are 20,000 dresses at Macy's. And if someone types dress or mother of the bride dress or date night dress, it makes a huge difference what you return. Another area we've been working on in the hardware space in partnership with Lowe's is things like how you do language around lumber queries, for example, which turns out to be a weird, hard problem. So, for example, if someone types 2x4x16, what they mean is a 2-inch by 4-inch piece of lumber that's 16 feet long. We actually had to build a whole AI just to handle lumber dimensions because it's such an unusual problem that we hadn't worked on before. So those have both been great product areas with us. And this product has been very successful in fashion and in hardware and in home improvement. And we're working on a bunch of other sectors, including grocery right now.
Thank you for that, Noah. Thank you for that, Pallav. The next question comes from Melissa. Melissa asks, could you share how you are ensuring data privacy and making sure it does not become an area of concern for customers? Great question, Melissa. Pallav, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, let me go first. So data privacy is the issue of our times, right? And it's a really important issue for GCP. And it's even more important for AI products like ours, which essentially rely on customer data to deliver good performance. And we've taken what I would consider the most conservative and I think the most long-term oriented stance that we will not share data between customers. Each customer's data is their own. Any models, search or recommendations or whatever products we build in the future will use model weights that are trained on that customer's data and will not leak data intentionally or accidentally in any way at all to another customer. And that has allowed us to earn the trust of such marquee customers like Macy's, Lowe's, IKEA, et cetera. And it has allowed us to focus on improving performance rather than focus on gleaning user data or pooling customer data or taking data from one place and putting it in another, right? It kind of really makes us put our head down and say, how could we make the best customer intent engine or the best ML model that can extract most insight from the data that we're getting? And we continue to keep working on this. We're always trying to keep a high bar. And so every new capability that we launch, data privacy is front and center for us.
Thank you for the detailed response there, Pallav. Noah, is there anything you'd like to add? If not, we could jump to the next question.
I think one thing to mention is, and a lot of our customers ask this, which is how do we share data between customers and how do we share data between Google and our customers? The answer is we don't share between our customers at all, meaning retailer A and retailer B, there's no cross training of AIs, no sharing of data. Between Google and customers, it's a one-directional flow, meaning a customer benefits from all the Google data around what the date night dress is, but we never send a customer's data to Google, meaning a customer can use Google's insights on date night dresses, but if there's some unusual insight on what a Disney princess dress is that comes from your website, that never gets shared up to Google. Google has to figure that out on its own.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Pallav. The next question comes from Allison. Allison asks, are there any plans of extending these solutions to other industries in the future? Noah, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, so right now, our search tools are designed for e-commerce retailers, meaning that their job is to find the revenue maximizing mix of products. But we are hoping in the next year to do two things. One is to potentially build a general purpose search, rental search engine where you could just do, we can work across industries, so it could work in media and anything. Then the other thing we're working on is making other vertical specific search engines. So we might have not just a general purpose search engine and not just a retail engine, but also very dedicated optimized engines for other industry use cases.
If I may jump in and add a little bit to that, Noah, one of the really cool things I've experienced as a product manager is how customers find value in your products in ways you did not intend for them to. The underlying tech of our search and recommendations product is so universal that we've had customers from, the media world, entertainment world, food blogs. We've had amusement parks. We've had all kinds of customers that have, without telling us, started using our product and told us afterwards, hey, wow, these are great results. And so we're constantly, amazed by how widely applicable this technology is and how much of a roadmap that is created for us in terms of making it not just possible, but delightful for these customers and other, sub-verticals to be able to use our products. So more to come. Stay tuned.
Got it. Thanks, Noah. Thanks, Pallav. All right, for the last question of the day or this session, it comes from Rohan. Rohan asks, do these products or discovery support languages beyond just English?
I can try to answer that, and then I'd love to get Noah's perspective as well. So, like I said, the underlying tech of our products is super universal, right? And that universality applies not just across verticals, but also across languages. Let me give you the recommendations version of it, and then I'm sure Noah can add a little bit about the search version of this. In the recommendations world, we've built our product already such that it is completely language agnostic. We use some really impressive Google libraries to translate language into something that our system can understand. But beyond that, we can basically serve relevant recommendations and sort of real-time personalization for products in any language or customers who are searching or seeing recommendations anywhere. On the search side, we have some specific languages on our roadmap. Again, like I said, the product is widely applicable to a lot of languages, but then we want to make it delightful, not just good. And so we're continuing to work on those languages beyond English. But Noah, feel free to add specifics on that.
Yeah. So, while certain products are actually sort of language agnostic, like recommendations, hey, given these 4 products in your cart, what else might you buy? Doesn't require a lot of language processing. Search actually requires tremendous quantity of language knowledge. And we built the product to be, it's not language agnostic, but language adaptable. And right now we support English, Spanish, Japanese, 2 kinds of Portuguese, German, French, Dutch, and Italian. And we're hoping to add 5 or 6 more languages before the end of the year. So it is definitely extendable to other languages, but does not automatically work in all languages out of the box. But it's working in the vast majority of the major e-commerce languages. The only one, the obvious one that we want to focus on is Mandarin. So.
Got it. So before we close out, is there anything you guys want to say around advanced R&D and AI, or are we okay to close now?
There's sort of one really, really interesting thing that before I had a computer crash, wasn't able to talk about during my advanced AI thing, which is One thing we talked about is better language AI, which says, okay, let's process language to go from a query to a product, right? One version of that, which is what I was talking about before, is okay, let's figure out what adjectives are. Then let's make a better AI that figures out how adjectives work. And then let's figure out what a blouse is and make a better AI to figure out what nouns are. There's actually a new approach that's coming out of the research community that I call sort of skip the language completely. And the way this one works, I find this, this is the one that I find is super exciting. What we do is we make a 128D space. So like instead of 3D, we have 128D. And we start putting products in this place. And so we say, okay, hats go over here and Ziploc bags go over here. And then when we get more products, we start putting them in and we start moving them together so that when they get bought or searched for together, they're in near groups. So you might have Ziploc bags and Tupperware is in one area, which is very far away from hats and concrete mixers, which are very far away in different dimensions. And then in this model, rather than having to do complicated language parsing, like figuring out blue blouses versus blue jeans, what you can do is all you have to do is you find this, you take a query, date night dress, and you figure out where it lives in this space. And then you just find the products that are near it. You say, wow, the 7 products that are nearest to date night dress in this 128D space are these, and I'll show them. And the cool thing about this technique, it requires tons of data. But if you do have the data for this, is it lets you skip all the language modeling completely, and you don't have to worry about adjectives. You just can figure out where every query lives in space, where every product lives in space, and the products that are near the query are the answers, and you didn't even have to parse the language. You just had to figure out how to translate in and out of this 128D space. So that's something we're working on. It's just going into early testing now, but it's sort of one of the most exciting things that we have that will not only do great performance, but also makes managing these huge AIs a lot simpler, because then all of a sudden you can skip like 7 steps. So that's something that we're really excited about. And it's one that I don't know. There's a lot of moments in AI where you go, wow. And like my wow moment is that you can just skip language AIs and go and just think about 128 dimensional space and find the products there. It's really cool. I really hope it works.
So in closing, want to thank our expert panelists. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Paula, for your time. I know some of these products just recently launched, so your time is very valuable. So we appreciate that. For everybody else on the line, customers, i.e. retailers or end customers, we encourage you to go to the Discovery for Solutions homepage. If you're not working with a current FSR field sales representative or you don't have an account team, please express interest by clicking that blue button and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And again, if you're working with an FSR and account team and you're extremely interested in this product, please reach out to them. But with that said, thank you again, everybody. It was a pleasure to join this live discussion.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Noah.
Thank you,
Thanks,
team.
guys.